Welcome back to Homa Studio Winter 2024, and this is our 7th video in our series working with Flask in Python Anywhere. Now we just started working with Flask and we just basically connected to the web app using this page in Python Anywhere. And the only thing we did was just display a line from here. It was hello world to start, but we changed this a little bit. And the code that we have, this is the file that we have, and it's just a basic generic template file starting off. But I just wanted to go over what's going on with this file. This import line here is basically importing the Flask app. So from the Flask web framework, we're bringing in the app to work with, and we're going to use it as an instance here or a variable name called app. And that's just saying it could be any name that we're using. We're calling it main, it could be other names, but that's all that's happening right here. So we're basically creating an instance of app. And what this line is, in line 8, it's basically a decorator, and it's kind of a shortcut, but what it does is it binds itself to this function. Now what it also does is it creates something called a root. Now the root in here is a slash. Now usually no slashes by directories, and if there's nothing there, it usually just means it's going to a default directory. Now that's our main directory, and it's going to go to the default page, which will be indexed. Now we don't have to specify that yet, but we will. Now right now this will be the first page that it goes to in that directory, and what's going to happen, it's bound to this function right now, and that's why when we define hello world, or whatever you want to call this function, you could call it greeting or something like that, it's just returning this line. Now there's no HTML in there right now. When we look at this, when we go here to this final page here and we view source, we're not seeing any HTML in here because we're not really creating an HTML page. We just have a line on there. So it's just displaying that. So we don't have a lot going on right now, but we will, because we will create an index page and we will put HTML there and so on. And so I just want to explain a couple things here. So this is creating that dynamically. We didn't create an index page yet, but we will. So you could literally create another root like this, and I'll just paste this and call this contact and make a function called contact, which will be bound to this page when it is generated. And then you could just put something in here. I'll just put contact me. And if we go to that page, it should put that information on the page, not with HTML code yet, but it should just return that information as text on the page. So if we save this file, and then I always like to go here and just reload this, which is actually running the function. And actually, let me point that out. Because we have a function defined and a function defined, you might be saying, well, where is it being run? Now it's being run on the page, and it's actually happening in the background. It's using an app.run. We're not seeing that right now. And when we use Python Anywhere, when we're kind of reloading it, it's running that. So it's actually running that in the background, just in case you're wondering about that. Because I was wondering, well, where's the function call? So the function call is app.run, but it's happening in the background. You could put it on a page. If you were working just in terminal, you would have to do that. But because we're working in the Python Anywhere environment, that's happening behind the scenes. So we don't have to put app.run in here. And when we do this, this is essentially running it so that when we reload the page again or we refresh the page, you should see that function already being created. So when I go here, I'm just going to refresh that. Nothing happens because that's the index page, but if I go here and put contact, it should go to that new page and say contact me. And you could do all kinds of things with this. You can put in variables, you can put in strings. I'm not going to get into that right now because we want to deal with the database. So what we're going to be doing next is actually just checking the database and making sure it's connected. And we'll do it very simply. We won't get really into the weeds yet with it. We'll just make sure it's connected using this kind of code. And then what we'll do is then we'll start displaying our information with HTML. So we're eventually going to have to create an HTML page. And we'll do that by creating a templates folder, which I'm not sure if we have yet. Let me just save this here. And let me go back to Files, and I'll right click so it opens in a new tab. So I could leave this alone for now. And if I go into Flask, I do not have templates yet. So I'm going to want to create a templates folder and a static folder, and that way we can start creating an HTML page to put more formatted HTML information on there, and eventually CSS formatted as well. So that's kind of where we're going for that, but I just wanted to explain this to start, the way these roots work. This is a decorator line, this is the function definition, and these roots are binding to the functions, and they're also generating dynamically new pages that we go to, but we want to create our own pages. Now we can put HTML down here, we can generate HTML and make it go into that page, but it's a lot easier to just create an HTML page and link it up to a page inside of templates. So we're going to start working with our connection next, and then we'll get back into creating these HTML pages coming up in our 8th video, where we're actually going to connect to our database using Flask.